When drafting up this script, I was curious about the game's name, Harmony of Dissonance. Growing up playing band in school, Dissonance always went to a musical field for me. That doesn't really fit in the Castlevania series, aside from a few of the games holding musical words in their titles, so I did not really bother to look into that area. No, the more interesting one comes when looking for definitions. One is stated, an instance of such inconsistency or disagreement. I can now draw parallels to the game I was playing, but I completely felt stupid when I looked back at the definition when used in music. Inharmonious or harsh sound. Discord, cacophony. Inharmonious. Harmony of dissonance. Am I either really stupid or... no, it's definitely that. The game Symphony of the Night has a huge impact on the Castlevania series. I don't really think I need to preface that, but doing it just in case. I don't think that this is controversial to say, but I understand that while some are a-okay with that, others are irked by the series straying from the roots of the classic Vania games. I can see a mutual existence for both, but I'm clearly wrong since Konami says there cannot be any existence of Castlevania. I can't say I see the vision here, but I'm clearly not big corporate gaming now, am I? Following up a game like Symphony of the Night was going to be tough, simply put, more so transitioning from the PlayStation 1 to the Game Boy Advance. For our lad Koji Igarashi, he was intent on making this a reality with Harmony. So, did he do it 5 years after the mega success it was? Well, yes and no. And anything in between. I better just get into it, huh? Well, I'd say let's stop waffling around and get into this game, shall we? While I am playing on the Advanced Collection, I'm going to be covering Castlevania, Harmony of Dissonance, released for the Game Boy Advance in 2002. Let's dive in. The first and last game I reviewed from the Castlevania series was the predecessor on the GBA, Circle of the Moon. If you know of its development or saw my video, free plug, you may know that famed producer Koji Igarashi had no involvement with that entry. Having a different studio take up arms for Circle, Igarashi and his team went intended to make a follow-up to Symphony of the Night in many ways. Being such a success as well as genre-defying in many ways, I understand wanting to chase said high. Now, being a blatant clone is not what I would call Harmony at all, but many characteristics are here and continued from the monolith. Ayumi Kojima was brought back, being well known for her artwork for Symphony and a good chunk of the other Vanias, if you needed more similarities to lump on, of course. Being the middle child of the GBA trilogy of games, I feel like it is one that is probably the least talked about. Aria is probably the most talked about and has many different reasons, but that's an entirely another video, and my guess for Circle being more talked about is it's the first of the three, as well as playing different from what we see in the other games. Being the second on the handheld does give it some advantages, however. The graphics were a lot different from Circle of the Moon. A big complaint was the darkness of the game on the original Game Boy. I did not experience this as I'm playing on modern collections, but I understand the struggle of handheld gaming before that of backlights. The colors are a lot more vibrant, maybe too vibrant to some, but hey, at least it pops out. The game released to a positive reception and the sales were not awful, but Igarashi himself called the game not a huge hit, at least in Japan. I cannot really find much else on that number, but as mentioned, the Advanced Collection dropping in 2021 allowed many to replay and enjoy this game for the first time. And now we hit present day, where I do not hear a whole lot of this game. Similar to Circle, I had no formed opinions prior to entering this game. So, well, how does the game play out then? Well, we got ourselves a fun start. The plot focuses on the grandson of Simon Belmont. This is...
Juste Belmont.
That's his name. As you would assume of a filthy American, I mispronounced his name for the duration of my playthrough, calling him Just or Justy, or well, anything in between. Looking into it, it most likely is Juste, coming from the French origin. So, since I can't pronounce things properly, I'm gonna continue to call him Belmont. Just Belmont. This joke is lame, much like my pronunciation. He and his best friend Maxim arrive at a mysterious castle, looking for a kidnapped friend of Lidie? A dog, I can't with these names. If we're continuing with the French inspiration, it is probably Lidie.
Lydie.
So I will call her just Belmont. J-Man and Maxim split up at the entrance of the castle, Maxim being injured and experiencing some amnesia to boot. The adventure begins, and running into our lad Death more or less confirms that this is another Dracula castle. The connections this Dark Lord has to own multiple cribs like that just pop up and out of nowhere? Come on, man, I'm quite jealous. Where'd he get this money from? That is the start of the game, and where the game plays like the Metroidvania it is. The gameplay is a standard backtracking and gaining abilities like you'd expect in these types of games. Justice has access to the whip and switches between classic sub-weapons from the franchises. Throwing daggers, holy water, cross, the book, a component that is more leaning to the classic side as you can see, but it has its own customization. There of course is armor to gain and mess with it for better stats as well as customization to the whip. There is no other weapons to equip like swords and all that stuff, but they have other ways to circumvent this and be creative. Aside from all we have seen, you will encounter spellbooks for magic usage. This is your classic elements like thunder and fire and whatnot, but where we see some creative plays is when you cast them. Toggling the magic uses the allocated element, but the effects and area of effect are based off the sub-weapon you keep. This is really interesting and ups the builds you can do. You can find your niche for sure, and combinations are big. The fire book equipped has a different effect for the knife, the throwing axe, holy water, and all that stuff. I just think another big component of the fact is the magic regens naturally. It is rather slow, but while low, toggle off the magic and use the sub-weapons instead. They consume hearts just like in your classic games, and you can balance the two resources pretty easily. Low on hearts, switch the magic meter. It is convenient for exploration, and I feel it helps to incentivize a player, mix and match your combinations as well as just simply trying them out in the field more often than not. There are less spellbooks than the cards for the DSS system found in Circle, but this is fine to me. The issue I had with the card system was the sheer amount of combinations to use. Trying to find useful combos was kind of rough at times, and it just led me to looking up the best combos that were broken. While I think it's a solid improvement from Circle of the Moon, I do have some gripes. The first and biggest one was simply the usage. Trying out different combos are super fun, but the fact that there is simply no toggle for the books is extremely unfortunate. This really could elevate the system with one simple trick. Good thing I found the toggle in the final goddamn hour of the game. I change. I don't think I changed books. Hold on. Oh my god, that's a toggle! I fucking found it! It's... what? It's down in L&R? Are you fucking kidding me? Holding up while pressing L and R cycles the book without opening the menu. If you want to turn it off, hold down L and R. The fact that I spent 90% of this game pausing every minute or so to do some menuing, all while constantly stating in my videos that there should be a toggle really hurt. I got numb to this by the time I discovered the toggle, but it really reopened some of those wounds. Poured in some salt and then took a golf club to your shin just to say, go fuck yourself. This is something I have seen the general internet also have issue with though, so not knowing or remembering that toggle even existed, which I guess makes me feel slightly better. There is no tutorial aside from the instruction booklet, but those are more extinct than a dinosaur, so good luck having one anymore. This changes the gameplay and makes the whole adventure that much more palatable. So, if you haven't played it, make sure you learn of this right away. The only other issue I hold may not be super popular, but it involves the fact that the sub-weapons are temporary, more rather, you only can have one of them at a time. This is nothing crazy, most Castlevanias have this mechanic of course. With a core feature tied to the sub-weapon of your choosing though, it can be frustrating. Some weapons are rare as you would assume, and an issue I had was not realizing right away that I accidentally swapped a weapon while smacking candles around to regain hearts, only to screen transition and lose my Bible, or the cross. For me, this really made me stick to tried and true methods rather than going all out in experimentation. Once I found a combo I loved, I kinda wanted to just stick with that. Some are naturally better for screen clearing than others. My way to circumvent this would be switching between the sub-weapons whenever you want, maybe slowly unlocking each sub-weapon as you progress through the game, but it's already done with, so I guess I can't complain too much. All this being said, I still like the system. My only lasting con was the ladder of issues now that I know the toggle exists, so if I ever play this again, it should be a lot easier on me. As you maneuver around the castle, you collect your abilities and fight many bosses. The way you move around is really weird too. There are many gates that warp you all around the map. It makes linking everything together right in proper pain in the beginning. During the early stages, you encounter Maxim, who has mood swings up the ass. He really gets dickish and condescending, and that is fine the next time you see him. Maxim, the professional gaslighter here, eventually does regain some memories that he was trying to gather the remains of Dracula. When he collected all 6 though, he lost his memory, and when he was supposed to destroy them, he doesn't know what happened, and clearly does not have them on him anymore. Running into death again reveals a few truths. One is an obvious: Maxim is getting possessed by Dracula due to the remains that he was collecting. The thing is, the spirit of Dracula exists only in one castle that we traverse. One of two. Similar to Symphony, we do get a second castle to explore. Dissimilar is the way it's handled. The castle layout is identical, but the areas can be entirely different. Different scenery, bosses, and just collectibles. After the revelation, the map turns into two castles, showing Castle A and B, and you can overlap them to see how much ground you covered. It's a really clever touch. The warp gates now work as a portal between the two castles, and you can fast travel as well from the portal you unlock. The out-of-warping and weird sensation we kept feeling continuing through the beginning of the game, and the castle starts to piece everything together. It was inconsistent, disharmonious even. Maybe dissonance? We continue all the same, learning the Maxim was the one who initially abducted Lady, and brought her here under some control, we assume. We do eventually find Lady, but is kidnapped round 2 by Death. Just Desserts continues to roam the castle, looking for Maxim and Lady. In the late stages, we start collecting the remains of Dracula scattered throughout the castle. You will want this for the true ending, keep that in mind if you are playing the game. Another thing to get technically for a true ending is collectibles, and something I really didn't mention. You most likely will come across as many instances of random ass sets of furniture. Here I am, walking throughout the castle, thinking I'm coming up on a new power, and thinking I'm going to get like a double jump or something, and then I find a chair. Oh. Well, there is a room in this castle. Oddly enough, it stays the exact same for both sides in A and B, and we can put that to use. Upon entering, Justin is downright disgusted at the lack of interior design and wants to decorate. Priorities, my guy, what the hell? The joke about cribs coming up earlier is more true, as the side plot here is fucking pimped my room. Well, this is completely optional. I did not know this, thinking there would be some huge secret here, so by the time I found out it was optional, I was so close to completing the set I just went for it. Probably seeing this in the footage, but the Advanced Collection has a tracker for things like powers in the furniture pieces. Now this was immensely helpful and made my experience a hell of a lot better. Legendary if you did this with no guide, I would not have the patience for it. With this as well, backtracking is a lot here. Complaining about backtracking in a Metroidvania is kind of like bitching about grinding for EXP in an RPG, but this game has a lot of ground to cover. The warp points are admittedly scarce.
Hey, what's up guys, it's Scarce here.
As was the timing to unlock them. Half the damn warp points I found in the last section of the game, they're not spaced out well at all. Yeah, that is when you'll be running around the most, but good god. It's not terrible, movement is nice that I do not severely mind, but it's definitely off-putting. There are Castlevanias with better map design that don't vomit excessive backtracking. Keep in mind I do like the castle concept, at least in terms of the story, but here, some areas do not feel super unique. Hell, some bosses are not super unique as well. Minotaur and Minotaur 2 are in the exact same location. Really got the AE team working on the naming here, I see. Finishing off the story, however, you can get 3.5 endings. They go from bad to okay to good, tied with the usual Metroidvania checklist of items you need. For the best ending, you need both bracelets of Grape Juice and Maxim. These are given via the story, but you need to have them equipped, as well as finding the 6 remains of Dracula. The final fight of Phase 1 is Maxim possessed by the Dark Lord. With the bands, the real Maxim is able to somewhat sever the connection between Dracula and him, as he is reminded of his friends. Spirit of Dracula enters the remains and turns into a weaker form of Dracula. In goes the final battle. I have nothing too crazy to go upon. This battle was not nearly as rough as the one Circle put me through, but when all over, the usual escape from the castle that is crumbling starts, and the 3 friends make it out. The half of a best ending I mentioned is a tiny little detail in the ending sequence. It's where Lady leans up or seemingly kisses the grandson of Simon Belmont if he completed the furniture room. Boys looking to pick up chicks? Study that interior design and learn how to decorate. Very weird detail, and I'm not entirely sure it's worth it, but hey, you can be the judge of that one. Beating up the game offers the extra modes as you'd expect. A boss rush mode and a new game plus feature where you get to play as Maximus here. It works very similar to other Castlevania's post-game modes, but I don't really mind, it's super cool. Coming up with a satisfying way to end this is harder than I thought. This is a perfectly serviceable Castlevania game, overshadowed by the game it tried to emulate. Even the next game in the lineup, Aria was more popular and more praised. Even comparing the Circle of the Moon, the mechanics do not stand out as much. Now I think the Vanias I have played, this may be one of the more forgettable adventures. Probably a good sign when I do not have heavy things to criticize here other than that there are better games in the roster. I did like the 2-castle mechanic and how it integrated with the story, even if the plot beats felt eerily similar to the last adventure. Like, does Dracula only lure longtime friends where one has a deep-seated resentment toward the protagonist and uses that to its advantage? Movement was great here, too, as the backtracking here is one of the more heavier instances in these games. It is a game I could recommend to leave in a play if you think you'd like it. Metroidvania fans will probably enjoy it if they have yet to experience this adventure. People who aren't a fan or trying to get into this franchise would be better off with other games in or out of the franchise just to convince them otherwise. I'm curious to see how others feel in this matter though. It could be very well that this is loved by more people who grew up with the game. A game of this size in the GBA is pretty neat all the same, so I'd love to hear others' thoughts. Wrapping up, I think the GBA collection helped make people remember these games in general. We could always do more to make people think of these games though. Maybe a remaster with new tweaks could help boost the game? Maybe a sequel? Anything? At this point, I just want to see a new Castlevania game. Hey, what do? I just want a new Castlevania game. What do I have to do? Offer up my best friend to the Lord of Darkness Dracula? Actually, that might work.